Did you know that each Filipino uses on average 120 liters of water per day? Multiply that by the 14 million living in the metro and that comes out to 1.7 million cubic meters of water requirement daily. And because the Angat Dam is barely keeping up, it's no surprise then that the metropolis is experiencing a supply crunch. Hello, I'm Mike Yoreta and this is the wild card round of Square Off Season 18, the VNA Law Debates. The House of Representatives looking to pass proposed laws within the year to create 3 new government agencies for overseas workers, disaster response, and water distribution.
Kahit ma-create yan before the end of the year, katulad ngayon, wala pa naman sa budget yan eh. Tapos magkukuha pa ng mga empleyado, lipatan ng opisina. So even assuming we can do it at the end of the year, baka middle or end of next year pa. Yung DICT, kailan pa namin pinasayan, next year lang talaga magkakaroon ng regular, no, na talagang sarili niyang budget. So minamadali po natin to.
Calls for the creation of a Department of Water continue to mount as the water shortage has been crippling the metro since March.
It's really about finding water. And so, yung siya na ngayon, ano ba, gagawin mo na yung kaliwa, laiban, kanan, etc. Ngayon, ang magdidesisyon po yan ay yung Department of Water. Sila na bahala sa pagplano na lahat tungkol sa tubig. This is very critical. It's a vital resource. You have one for energy. You should have one for water.
Having a single agency to handle water security is expected to help address the current fragmented water administration in the country.
Our estimate is around 32 to 33 agencies dealing with water, although I think it's an issue on who is really in charge.
But at least 3 congressmen have already expressed their doubts that creating a water agency would help solve the water crisis, saying setting up a new department is not as simple as it sounds, and that this could only end up delaying the solutions. So, should Congress create a Department of Water and Resources Services to address the present water crisis in the country? Arguing for the affirmative side is the Bukidnon State University. From the institution aiming for moral and spiritual truth, the next generation lawyers from Bukidnon State University.
I got into debating when I entered law school, and I found it very interesting because you get to express all your ideas, all your thoughts, and you get to brainstorm with your friends.
I love debating because it enables me to contribute ideas to the pressing issues that our community is currently facing.
I love the thrill of the adrenaline rush of being able to engage in an intellectual discourse with different persons. It enables me to hone my ability to structure my thoughts and be able to have reasoning not just only for the sake of logic, but be backed up with evidence.
Team Bukidnon State University. Driven, intellectual, progressive. And based on the number of votes, the other wildcard contender should have been San Beda University. Unfortunately, San Beda had to back out because their students are taking their finals this week. So taking over the slot for the negative side is the University of Santo Tomas. Driven by truth and charity, the contenders from the Royal and Pontifical University of Santo Tomas.
The best part about debating for me is the science of it. There is somehow a formula to how an argument works and how an argument will be able to persuade a person.
Here in this debate tournament, there's an audience. And such audience, I believe, are the true winners, for they get to see the different viewpoints before they get to decide for themselves who among the teams is the real winner.
What I love about debating is that it always makes me question my own beliefs and also allows me to challenge my own perception of what is normal and what is right and what is wrong. And that's just really a humbling experience as I observe how my views change along the way.
Team University of Santo Tomas. Committed, passionate, competent. Now let's meet our distinguished judges. First off, we have attorney Antonio Miguel Lu. He's a senior associate at the VNA law firm. Next, we have attorney Rene Pilapil. He is the head of legal affairs at the ACDI Multipurpose Cooperative. He also competed in our Season 8 debates. And presiding as our chief adjudicator is Judge Maximo Ancheta from the Regional Trial Court Branch 66 in Baler, Aurora. The word war begins when Square Off Season 18, the VNA Law Debates returns. Please stay tuned.
Little to no effect and delayed improvement on the ground because of lack of leadership and fragmented approach of the government. Actually, there are 30 agencies involved in sanitation and water supply, which are disconnected and inconsistent with their mandates. Your Honors, LUWA is under the DPWH, NWRB is under the DNR, NIA and MWSS are actually separate GOCCs. Therefore, in terms of planning and infrastructure developments, these sectors make their own roadmaps, which are actually not integrated with the roadmaps of other players of this sector. So, Your Honors, these inconsistencies, uncoordinated mandates, and clashing interests of these agencies actually make it difficult for the sector to act and results to high costs of coordination. To exercise this, the DWRS Secretary will actually supervise the overall management of water resources and water-related plans, and also harmonize all the policies and eliminate redundant functions, and also ensure proper accountability of financial issues. Your Honors, the creation of DWRS was strongly supported by NED and other economic advisors and is actually a priority bill of the President. Your Honors, as long as the government action towards these water crisis it remains to be fragmented, we will only result to a partial solution.
2 minutes for the cross-examination.
Good evening, Counsel. Have you experienced water interruptions in the past?
Yes.
Have they been resolved? Are they still subsisting even now? Those water interruptions you've experienced.
Yes.
They have.
Yes.
Do you have access to water in your household right now?
Yes.
Do your friends have access to your household?
What is the relevance of your question?
Well, we are here to establish that there is water that is coming to households and communities that the agencies in this case are performing their mandate. So again,
Counsel, these agencies
please just
are
answer yes or no.
Okay,
are you aware that there is a department which is mandated to provide policies and regulations
there are
with the
actually
water?
30 government agencies
is the Department of Water going to take the obligation of providing policy regulations?
I've discussed
then if there is already an agency providing those policy regulations, what is the use of, please just answer yes or no, okay? So you said earlier that there is it is fragmented, that the agencies right now are fragmented.
Yes. That is why we will create a Department of Water to consolidate these fragmented.
Please just say yes or no. Are the regions, with regards to their needs in water or the treatment of water, are they the same?
We will have a regional offices that will address specific problems to every
Please say yes
region.
or no. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, they're the same. Are the population numbers in each region and each municipality?
No, of course,
the
population is not the same. So that is why the Department of Water and Resource Services will have a regional office that will address localized issues.
The question here is: are the water needs of every region or municipality the same? And if they are not,
all Filipinos have
isn't
equal
it inherent that
right
they are
to
fragmented?
Water and Sanitation Council.
Your Honor, it is inherent in the system that these water are fragmented because of the different and various needs of every region and municipality.
No, what you're talking about here is the fragmented governance and not the necessity of water.
Ryu, you now have 4 minutes to advance your argument on why there's no need to set up a single agency to handle all the water issues in the country.
Your Honors, ladies and gentlemen, we are one with the affirmative side, and with regard the water crisis we are facing right now. It affects each one of us in every different aspect of our lives. That is why we also want to be critical when it comes to the solutions we're proposing in Congress. In this case, we believe that the DOW, the Department of Water and Resource Services that they are trying to propose is just counterproductive and is not necessary to further alleviate the problems we are facing today. This solution presupposes that we have organizational issues, but that is not the case in this debate. The problem at hand is not an administrative problem, but a funding and accountability problem. We lack the pipes to transport water from the places that do have water to the places that we need that need water, and we lack the experts to maintain the equipment in regions where there is water, so we can't optimize the water supply. Even with the Department of Water that would undertake these issues, wouldn't it be best to just put those efforts and the time, the cost to further strengthen those existing agencies we have right now? For example, NRWB, the MWSS, and the National Irrigation Administration. Even if a DOW would solve these issues, creating the department itself is a burden on the government, requiring the cost and time when it could have gone to the actual agencies that need them right now. Now, the current administrative and bureaucratic framework is only facing external infrastructure challenges and funding problems, which comes with the distribution challenges these organizations face. If this is the real problem, the creation of the DOW is indeed not necessary. As my colleagues will explain further later in their speeches, we argue that DOW is not the solution we need right now for three main reasons. First, it's non-necessity because of existing agencies. Second, it's non-beneficiality because it would deter accountability among other agencies. And third, it's non-practicability as a managing institution. As the non-necessity speaker, we argue that it is not necessary to create the DOW because the DOW would not address the current crisis regarding our water supply and water distribution. And even if it could, these can be addressed by the existing agencies already. We have existing irrigation canals and irrigation services that are developed by the National Irrigation Administration. The MWSS and other water districts are there to provide water to our households. The flood management systems are being developed and being programmed by the DPWH because they have the expertise and the data to carefully address the issue when regards to flooding. And that is the other main reason, Your Honors, why this Department of Water is not necessary. Because if we collate all these other agencies that have different and separate functions, for example, DNR when it comes to environmental concerns, or flood management systems when it comes to DPWH, if we collate them and collect them into one department, it would only slow the development of their programs and would only deter the answers to the answers to the problems we have at hand. Again, we reiterate, we deeply recognize our water crisis and it affects us individually as well. We also want to solve or at least lessen the problem we have right now, but a DOW is not the way to do it. Ladies and gentlemen.
2 minutes for the cross-examination.
So, Council, hello?
Yes, hello.
So you concede to the fact that there is water crisis.
Yes.
However, you failed to propose a better policy than creating a DWRS.
That is not a problem.
So, Council, you are saying that there is a lacking of funding.
Yes.
So can you tell me what specific agency will you give that budget?
Well,
you can't mention it. So, Council, are you familiar with the functions of NEDA?
Yes.
Okay, so NEDA is known as the country's premier socio-economic planning body, highly regarded as the authority in macroeconomic forecasting and policy analysis. So, is there an integrity and credibility in the research made by NEDA?
Of course.
Okay, so you should agree with me that the proposal of NEDA to create Department of Water and Resources is actually based on critical research and development is actually necessary. Your Honors,
Not really.
the proposal to create Department of Water and Resource Services is actually a proposal of NEDA and various economic managers, and also it is also a priority bill of the President. Therefore, Council, it means that even the government actually concede to the fact that creating a Department of Water is necessary.
Okay.
No more questions, Your Honors.
Let's now hear from the second affirmative speaker, Cristel. You've got 4 minutes to tell us why it would be beneficial for Congress to create a Department of Water and Resources.
The claim of the first speaker from the negative bench that it actually deters accountability when you actually collate these agencies in one single department is actually preposterous. Because if you are able to establish a definite accountability will be there because there is a single department that is actually accountable for such. We need laws, public policies, and regulations to create a stable platform for sustainable long-term water stability, and it is especially the government which has the duty to adopt appropriate legislation. Your Honors, Bukidnon State University presents its cost-benefit analysis and submits that it is high time to create a Department of Waters and Resources Services and as the chief overseer and sole regulator of water distribution in the country. First point, with regulatory functions controlled by several different agencies, this would result to higher risk in the costs of coordination. Second point, the absence of a centralized water resources management creates a devastating domino effect on areas like health and agriculture that takes a toll on our country's economy. On the first analysis, the existing NWRB actually shares, if not competes for, its ostensibly all-encompassing mandate with 30 other government agencies. For instance, the mandate of watershed conservation is with DENR, domestic water supply is with LUWA, irrigation water supply is with NIA, and flood control management is with DPWH. This becomes problematic because the sheer number of actors and the assumed plurality of mandates. Yes, Your Honor.
Is it the position of the affirmative side that the different bodies regulating the water needs of different areas in the Philippines all address the very same problem in every aspect?
Your Honors, that is why we are creating a single department with different. If it is a single department, there will be different regional offices for such. So these different problems in different regions can actually be catered through the creation of a department. Furthermore, Your Honor, this becomes very problematic because the sheer number of actors and assumed plurality of mandates make for serious political inertia in implementation. These agencies would tend to prioritize their specialty projects over the ones merely delegated to them. The present menagerie of laws has led to the current weak and fragmented institutional framework in the water resources sector. Whereas, through a department, there will be a central regulatory structure which would provide coherence and prioritization specifically for the innovation, conservation, management, and treatment for water. The absence of an integrated water resources management that adopts a holistic approach to water sector demands will be better addressed under our proposal. On the second analysis, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations provided that since 2015, annually 16 trillion pesos worth of total damage and production are lost in crops alone. 1.48 million metric tons of crops lost, including rice, corn, cassava, and high-value crops like bananas and rubbers. 413,456. Yes, Your Honor.
If there is sufficient supply of water from Angat Dam, do you think there's still a need to create Department of Water?
Your Honors, yes, there is still a need. Even if, let's say, that it is sufficient for now, it is not a guarantee that it will be sufficient for the later years to come. The creation of the department will become a long-term sustainability project for the Filipino people. Moving on, 413,456 affected farming households are in need of support to recommence farming activities due to water scarcity. Furthermore,
2 minutes for the cross-examination.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
So, do you drink water?
Yes, of course. It's a basic human right.
Yeah. Do you bathe in water then?
Pardon?
Do you bathe in water?
Do I waste? Yes, of course.
Okay, but would you drink the water that you bathed in?
No, definitely not.
Okay, that's great because the water you drink is not the same water that you bathe in, right? The point is, Your Honors.
However, whichever I bathe in it or I drink in
the point is, Your
there is still a
Honors,
scarcity
water
in
is
it.
treated
so
differently.
how could I bathe or
Thank
even
you
drink
so
in
much.
it? Or
Thank
if the
you.
people in Metro Manila do it,
The
when
point,
there's a
Your Honors, is
scarcity
that
of such.
water is treated differently and requires different specialists for the processing of the same. Okay,
Exactly.
now,
And
Counsel,
the creation of the department will
Counsel,
actually further the funding.
Okay, thank you.
that
That's
we're
enough.
actually
Now, is it your
fighting for.
position
So
that
that is
the
not
various
mutually exclusive under your model.
You're wasting my
We can
time,
co-opt that
Counsel.
under
Stop. Okay.
affirmative.
So now, is it your position that the various existing water agencies will be subsumed under this new department?
Subrogated.
Okay. So then, in a nutshell, all agencies related to water are being grouped together under one department.
Yes, because this is patterned with other countries.
But,
This is what they're
but
doing. And we do not
is it
see
possible
the
that these
problem as to
agencies
why this cannot be forward in our
perform the same
country.
specialized functions? Did you hear my question?
Pardon?
Is it possible that these agencies perform the same
Subrogated.
subject? Did they perform the same functions?
Of course they do. That is why there is not enough delineation as to what is
but
the purpose
is it possible
of one
that the
agency
reason these
against
agencies
another?
remain separate right now is simply because of the fact that they are specialized?
Pardon?
The reason that the agencies remain separate right now is because of the fact that they are specialized.
No, of course not. The reason that they are actually
all right.
They
but
are actually
then we have to be open to the possibility that we have to strengthen these agencies
that's actually
instead.
creating confusion with the implementation of the different projects.
So, with existing agencies, how come you have to create a Department of Water Resources when in fact it's because of the fact that they have the same objectives? No
for
further
the
questions.
stability of our water in the country.
Okay.
Thank you, Council.
Janina, you now have 4 minutes to tell us why it would not be in the country's best interest to create another department, this time just to address the water issues of the country.
Your Honors, it's ironic how we blame the lack of consolidation for what simply is a lack of funding and accountability. But what's more ironic is the affirmative's proposal to create a new department composing of the very same agencies which they deem ineffective. For non-beneficiality, 2 points improving that the creation of the Department of Water Resources would bring unnecessary confusion instead of resolving the actual problem. First, I just want to ask the affirmative, how long will it take you to create this new department? And by the time it is established, how water deprived will the Filipinos be? The proposal of the affirmative is wasteful, and with the pressing water crisis, we don't have the liberty of wasting time, funding, and effort as it lengthens the time we deprive the Filipinos of their water and a government that is responsive to their immediate and urgent needs. For what use would it be to simply consolidate all of our existing agencies into one department? Only affirmative would know. Secondly, multiple autonomous agencies performing their functions promotes specialization necessary in the water industry. Because need I remind affirmative that water is used for other reasons than for taking their much-needed showers. Moreover, it also promotes accountability. In fact, as upheld in the Supreme Court decision on Metro Cebu Water District versus Adala, autonomous water suppliers better address the unique needs of various districts. Applying to status quo, separate water agencies must focus on various specializations related to water simply. You can't expect a specialist in sewage management to provide clean drinking water. They are separate for a reason. The various functions of water must be managed under the correct agency without the unnecessary confusion affirmative introduces. So I urge Your Honors to look into which model immediately resolves the pressing issue of our water crisis and guarantees specialized efficiency, but more importantly, service integrity. Consolidation is not the mutually exclusive means to ensure accountability. To illustrate, Justice Bernabe in the case of Gonzalez versus Office of the President discussed how independence of having an external disciplining authority. The Supreme Court even recently enabled the DENR to impose fines to a variety of water concessionaires for violations of RA 9275 or the Clean Water Act. Further, the water use permits are in place and granted by the National Water Resources Board after examinations by various water agencies for compliance with the stringent requirements therewith. So again, what exactly does the affirmative intend to introduce with their new department, and how can it resolve the issue of the water crisis we face, given that the problem here is on the funding and accountability and definitely not the lack of safeguards and consolidation? Your Honors, we, On the negative one, to resolve the water crisis by looking into the problem of water shortage. We say that the solution is to strengthen the existing agencies through funding and accountability, while affirmative, which puts so much importance on hygiene, says, let's just consolidate everything water regardless of their function. Ironic, right? Thank you and good evening.
2 minutes for the cross-examination.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
So, Council, would you agree with me that water crisis is a complex issue, right?
Of course.
Okay. So, complex problems cannot be split into specific components, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, correct, Council. That is why even if perfect coordination and policy coherence were possible, it will still not be enough to address complex issues because their focus are their individual goals, in which holistic solution can only be achieved through the creation of Department of Waters and Resources Services. So, would you agree that the water supply, irrigation, sanitation, and sewerage are interconnected in a way?
They are, but they're not entirely the same.
Okay, Council, thank
they do
you.
not function the same way. They're
Meaning the
specialized for the
problems
purpose that
should
they are.
be solved holistically, right?
The fact is they are under
Okay, so meaning you should agree with me that the management of these aspects of water sector should be placed under one agency, which is the Department of Water. Next question. Are you aware, Council, that the overlap and poor consolidation of functions by these very agencies you are talking about have caused backlogs in providing a steady water supply to the public?
What's the point of that question?
Yes or no?
Is that part
yes
of your
or no? Of course it is. Yes or no?
Yes, but what's the point of the question?
Our proposed department will include explicit amendment of conflicting water laws to rationalize water irrigation, sewage and sanitation, and resource management council. It will centralize the mandates of various government agencies and it will streamline processes, Your Honors. Council, as an aspiring lawyer, at what cost are you willing to fight for someone's right?
I'll do everything in my power to do the same.
Okay, so you would agree with me that to fight for someone's right, or specifically someone's human right, knows no price, right?
Okay, but what's the relevance of that question?
Priceless, Council, right?
Yes.
Okay, so would you agree with me that the access to clean, potable, and sufficient water, it is a human right?
It's a human right, but the creation of the Department of Water Resources is not the immediate solution to this problem.
It is a priceless right to fight for, and we believe that Filipino people deserves that.
Third affirmative speaker, Trixel, you've got 4 minutes to tell us why it would be practicable to finally have a Department of Water set up.
Your Honors, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to first and foremost invalidate the claims made by the speakers of the opposite side of the bench. Now, the first speaker implies that existing agencies are sufficient enough to address the water crisis, yet this problem has long been persisting. Thus, we need a long-term solution, and that is the creation of the Department of Waters, Your Honors. Now, the second speaker of the opposite side of the bench also talks about the time that it will take to create this department. Your Honors, it is a priority bill, meaning to say that it has a priority status and should generally be made of greatest importance ahead of other bills. Now, Your Honors, our proposal is practicable because of the following reasons. This is anchored on various bills proposing the creation of the Department of Water and Resources Services. The DWRS shall be subrogated, meaning the transfer of powers and functions shall include all applicable funds, personnel, records, property, equipment, as may be necessary. All offices shall continue to function under their present mandates until transition is completed. Your Honors, this is not the first time that we created a department that resulted to abolition of several agencies. The law creating the Department of Information and Communications Technology was signed on May 20, 2016, resulted to several agencies from the executive departments dealing with communications functions and responsibility to be abolished or transferred to the newly created department, Your Honors. The law provides for a 6-month transition period for the full implementation of the transfer of functions, assets, and personnel. The DWRS, Your Honors, will first prioritize immediate attainment and universal access of water supply for all Filipinos. And second, strengthen and coordinate water resources planning and policy making to ensure fair allocation and efficient use of water resources. Through the creation of the DWRS, Your Honor, we shall be able to give better scrutiny, analysis, and long-term solution to the issues at hand. Like for instance, the presence of DWRS regional offices that would focus on water management operations on a localized scale and provide quick resolutions of issues pertinent to their areas. Further, mobilize negotiations and coordination with the IP communities utilizing in the utilization of the water resources that is found within their ancestral domains. Lastly, through the functional integration, Your Honors, the proposed DWRS shall have a broad mandate and extensive field of implementation units, which is the answer to the existing regulatory failure. This recommendation, Your Honors, shall allow DWRS to address the sanctions for violations in water distribution and concession agreements, regulation of water utility fees, and all other concerns of the consumers. We say sustainable solution, Your Honors, because the department that created by Congress through a law that cannot be readily abolished by any succeeding administrations. Your Honors, our government cannot be heedless and impassive over the outcries and sentiments of our Filipino people, nor can they produce a transitory short-term solution to the problems that has long transgressed the basic human rights of our people. Resolution 64-29-2 of the United Nations recognized the human rights, water, and sanitation, and acknowledged that clean drinking water and sanitation are essential to the realization of all human rights. Having said that, Your Honors, Bukidnon State University strongly believes that it is necessary, beneficial, and practicable that Congress should create a Department of Water and Resources Services to address the present water crisis of the country. Thank you.
2 minutes for the cross-examination.
Council, interagency and interdepartmental coordination does not exist, correct?
No, it does not exist.
Yes. No, it does exist, right? It does exist. Therefore, we see that it is possible. Now, the question is, we don't have existing regulatory boards, correct?
Yes, of course.
No, we do have existing regulatory boards. Clearly, the council does not know. So,
yes, we do have existing regulatory boards, council, but these do not function efficiently. That's why we are proposing a solution.
Now, the next question is, we have existing rules and regulations on water agencies, concessionaires, and the like. Is that correct?
But they do not efficiently
function. Now, so the question then becomes, can this mean that it is possible that improvements can be made with existing mechanisms already
they
we have available, rather than waiting
our
for a creation
they cannot address this. They need a regulating body, and that is the Department of Water Council.
But even if you're correct, right, are all bills in Congress in the Senate passes to become a law? Is that correct?
Of course, it is a priority bill.
No, it doesn't pass all the time.
It is a priority bill, Council.
It
is a priority bill.
It is a priority bill. We've passed bills before, but it hasn't passed, right? So the question then becomes, creation of a new department does not need a lot of funding, correct?
It needs.
Yeah, it does need a lot of funding, correct? So the question is, why can't we just put the funding for better infrastructure rather than a whole new brand department? Do you think that a new department would cost a lot of money that would sacrifice funding that can go directly to the Filipino people and public infrastructure?
What is your question, Council?
The question is, will there be money allocated to a new department?
Yes, of course, we need to spend to protect the basic human rights of our Filipino people, and that is to provide them
does the Philippines
with
as a country
water,
have
supply,
scarce
resources. We have scarce resources, and
exactly.
we need to.
No further questions. Thank you.
All right, Bolo. 4 minutes now to tell us why it would not be practicable for Congress to create a department solely dedicated to our water issues.
3 main problems as characteristics of a water crisis. Number 1, there's a lack of clean water resource. Secondly, insufficient financing by the government and the funding sector. But lastly, and most importantly, that the poor and vulnerable are paying the price of our country's underdeveloped infrastructure. The only argument coming from affirmative bench is that agencies and departments are separate. Therefore, if you put them together, magically the water problem will be solved. But obviously, the problem that we have right now is that we have poor infrastructure such that there's a slow transfer from water from Angat Dam to La Mesa Dam because it's like a catch basin that has to wait a longer time, which doesn't serve the Filipino people. Two arguments
arguments I want to talk about. First, that there are existing solutions that are available to us now, and there's a trade-off when we create a new department. But secondly, the legislative process is an unreliable process to address urgent needs of the people right now. Rebuttals will be integrated in those arguments. Going on to the first argument, that existing solutions, we posit that the creation of a Department of Water is not a precondition to the development and improvement of new and better infrastructure. You can rehabilitate the existing irrigation canals and expand irrigation services by developing new dams through the National Irrigation Administration. DPWH, they can have incentives and subsidies to improve sewerage and septic systems. On Your Excellencies, this addressed the problems directly, the lack of access to water, and it's not about like a departmental problem. But even if a creation department of water crisis exists and it does do a good job, assuming arguendo of affirmative, we need to prioritize the infrastructure problem first. Because if we still have a new department but poor infrastructure, the same problem will still continue again and again. They have to prove why a new department can automatically solve the problem directly in terms of better infrastructure. We already have the National Water Regulatory Board, which was created in 1976. We can use data and resources we already have there. It's the coordinating body of the water sector and has oversight over all water resources in the country. Why can't we just focus on that instead of wasting time debating in Congress and Senate of how we should do it? The last thing that I want to talk about is the uncertainty of a legislative solution. March of 2019, Senate Bill 2216 was introduced as Department of Water, Irrigation, Sewage and Sanitation Resources Management Act. Sadly, it didn't pass in affirmative world. That would be amazing, right? But the question now is that we have a new bill and there's no certainty that it will be passing today. The legislation process is a tedious and uncertain process. It has to go 3 readings. It has to go to the Senate. It passes to the president. It goes to the president if the president approves it. While the Congress in affirmative world debates on the intricacies of creating a new system, of a new department, the average Filipino system is suffering while we ignore the current solutions that we have available today. We are very proud to oppose.
Cross-examination. 2 minutes for the cross-examination.
All right, Council. So you mentioned about infrastructure. So, Council, you should be familiar with the Wawa Dam project, right?
Oh, please enlighten the audience and me.
All right. So this project is seen to be the less costly solution to the government in solving crisis in Manila, right?
Yeah.
Of course. So do you understand, Council, why this project is facing delay?
Because of lack of funding.
Of course, this is because of the fragmented government causing MWSS
but
to delay
to answer why.
On to my next question, Council. Will you agree with me when I say that the number of agencies carrying out various functions related to water resources and services are performing rather poorly? Would you agree with me?
Is that a categorical question? Or is that a statement?
Are they performing poorly?
Yes.
Of course, yes. Thank you, Council, for conceding. You therefore admit that the status quo is inefficient and the agencies are performing poorly. On to my next question, Council. Do you believe that we will reap outstanding benefits and advantages if a Department of Water and Resources and Services be created?
Obviously, that's not our side.
Of course, strengthening and coordinating water resource planning and policy making for fair allocation are not beneficial to the Filipino public.
Why can't we have coordination now?
All right.
That's something
On to my next question, Council. Do you know how ordinary Filipinos relay their concerns to the government, especially on departmental issues?
Yeah, that's why we have interdepartmental
issues or concerns that can be addressed by a particular department is accessible to the ordinary Filipinos because a department has regional offices. And through the creation of DWRS, Your Honor, we shall be able to give attention to a long-term solution to the issues at hand through having regional offices. On to my next question, Council. Are you aware of RA 11-2021?
I don't memorize numbers. Can you please enlighten me?
All right. So, Council, it is the most recent law passed in Congress on November 12, 2018 and signed into law by the President on February 14, 2019. It only took few months, Council, to have this bill signed.
The Department of Water bill hasn't been passed. We've tried before.
Now, on to my next question, Council. Have you read Resolution 64-292 of the United Nations?
Numbers,
all right. The Resolution, Council, recognized the human right to water and sanitation and acknowledged that clean drinking water are essential to the humans.
And with that, we end the debate proper. We now invite both sides to cross the House as our judges tally the scores. We'll bring you the results next. Please stay tuned. Square Off Season 18, the VNA Law Debates will be right back. Let's now hear what our judges have to say about our debaters. Attorney Liu, how did the affirmative side do?
The affirmative side vigorously defended their proposition, although I would have liked to see the direct correlation between the supposed lack of coordination among the different agencies with the failure to deliver the needed services. Nevertheless, I commend them for putting up a good fight. Good luck to both teams, and may the best team win.
And Attorney Palapel, how did the negative side do?
The negative side was able to present a consistent position. They were able to name the problems that they chose to stick to, or they were able to name the issues that they chose to defend. And it came out as a consistent position for all of the speakers, and I consider that very important. They were also able to do a lot of research and were able to perform quite impressively. Congratulations to both teams as well.
So which school wins the wild card round? We'll tell you in Square Off. The VNA Law Debates returns. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Square Off, the VNA Law Debates. And now let's hear from our Chief Adjudicator, Judge Ancheta. Your Honor, who did the judges pick for Best Speaker?
So, by a majority vote, the Best Speaker is Reuben Pascual from the University of Santo Tomas.
And the school that won this debate?
By a unanimous vote, the winner takes it all, University of Santo Tomas.
A big congratulations to the University of Santo Tomas for winning the wildcard round. Next week, Arellano University and Cor Jesus College go head-to-head in the first quarterfinals. I'm Mikey Orata. Thank you for watching.